There's a lot of talk this week about a Quibi show, believe it or not, called The Golden Arm. Now, I want to specify, this is actually not called The Golden Arm. The Golden Arm is a 3 Quibi episode thing from the show The 50 States of Fright. Now, what is The 50 States of Fright, you ask? You probably don't, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The 50 States of Fright is a series on Quibi where I'm assuming they make 3 Quibis, or episodes, into one story, and each story is a folklore from a different state of America. Now, this one, The Golden Arm, is from Michigan. I don't know the folklore too much, and I'm not sure if this folklore is actually from each of these states organically, or from another part in the world. Most likely probably is, but we'll just go with it that maybe this is from Michigan or whatever. But it's kind of a crazy story, and I'm going to tell you this story, but it's not going to change much. So it's basically this woman gets her arm cut off because a tree falls on it. And it's really way bloodier. And actually the tree, I was like, I could pick up that tree. I'm not that strong, but I could pick up that tree. So he doesn't pick up the tree. He cuts her arm off, because that's the thing you would think when someone's arm is crushed by a tree. But whatever. We're just going with it. And then she wants a prosthetic arm, but since she always demands the best and way beyond this guy's pay grade, because he makes nice furniture, and she's demanding way too much, frankly, decides to make her not just a prosthetic arm, but a golden arm. And she loves this golden arm so much. It's wonderful. People say, that she's a princess and her prince made her this golden arm because, seriously, apparently, she really needed that. William Ellman's telling me that Mark Twain wrote this in the chat. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Or wrote a version of it. But anyway, so she loves this golden arm, but finds out the golden arm is actually poisoning her, but she refuses to take it off because she's crazy, and it kills her. And then she makes him promise he'll bury her with the golden arm, because let's just let this guy, die in financial debt. So he needs to get the golden arm back, and basically grave robber and crazy things ensue. This is directed by Sam Raimi and is co-written by Sam Raimi and his older brother Ivan Raimi, who's also an actual doctor, believe it or not. This thing is crazy. But I will say, this is probably the best thing I've seen on Quibi, and the only full story I've seen of anything on Quibi. Sam Raimi, I think one thing he does really great with this story, and one thing I like about Sam Raimi, is he's somebody who likes B movies. He likes 50s B cult movies, but he also likes the kind of interesting things you can say through those movies. You know what I mean? He gets that a certain scene might seem quaint and safe, but then he uses that to kind of making the violence even that much more impactful. So, a lot of this time it feels like a really bad Hallmark movie or something, but he's doing it on purpose. You can tell this is done by a filmmaker who knows exactly what he's doing. It's probably my favorite thing Sam Raimi's done in a while. I didn't see all of Ashes vs. Evil Dead, so take that into consideration. But it is one of my more favorite things I've seen from him a little bit. It plays like a really well-made Tales from the Crypt episode sort of thing. But I love the idea of it's such a preposterous thing that she'd want this golden arm. The whole premise of it squishing her arm, the whole idea of it making her go crazy, and then it's played by Rachel Brosnahan, who's more known for Mrs. Maisel, but does a great horror performance in this. And with her husband, this guy whose name I forget, he does. Everyone's used effectively. Everyone's casted really well. And then you have the guy who works for him, this older black guy, kind of narrating, kind of telling you the tale in a way, which makes it feel much more folksy and kind of sadder and crazier. It's such a weird thing, and I'd almost say it's worth showing up to Quibi to watch, because you're just what the fuck is this? It is the most cult thing he's done in a while, but I flat out love what he's doing with this, because the whole idea of playing in the folktaleness of it, playing it almost like all shocksy sort of Hallmark TV movie, but then having it kind of collapse in on itself and then veer into that craziness. I think, when I was going through all the nostalgia critic-y things recently, and he's criticizing Sam Raimi, what I like when he goes into that is he's being incredibly, he's sort of being ironic, but you also get that he understands when you're doing that at face value and what you can do with that. And like he melds with B movies in such a masterful way in this that it's sort of just impressive, because he just like goes full tilt into this and into the craziness. But I think he also gets like this golden art thing. It's fucking dumb, but let's like go through it. And it's just, wow. I really like this thing. I was like, I'll just watch one before I go to bed last night, and I watched all 3 Quibis of the Golden Arm. The 50 States of Fright has 2 more whole stories on there. I think at least one about Kansas, which is not, the other ones aren't directed by Sam Raimi, but the first 3 that are truly something special. It is like a good Tales from the Crypt episode, and I like what Rachel Brosnahan does it. I like kind of like what it says about privilege and the 1%, and the idea that like they will basically die just to have this privilege and just to have this wealth. It doesn't even make sense that she has it. It just makes it like, it doesn't make sense anymore. It's not good for anybody, but she has it and she refuses to let it go. And like kind of like what that says about like right now, you know, everyone's going through this financial crisis and people just aren't helping people out. And the fact that she is willing to just destroy her husband, you know, destroy herself just to have this thing so she can have this kind of image of herself means so much more than anything else. I think that spoke to me quite a bit right now. And I thought the folktale of it, when you think of old folktales, they really say something about certain things about society, about how people feel about themselves, how they feel about the world and everything like that, and try to give you sort of a moral lesson. I think the moral lesson is both about the husband and wife, that the husband put up with this and let all this happen, but also that the wife herself represents so much more about wealth and the poisonness of that in itself. Wanting that more than anything is probably, you know, one of the most evil things you can possibly do. And kind of the horror of this whole thing is wealth and the perception of that. And I think, you know, I've seen a lot of things from Hustlers to Parasite to talk about that, but I think this is done in such a wonderful horror way, while also doing it in kind of a weird B-movie kind of cultish way that only Sam Raimi could really do.